they did a draw and I won the lottery.
The marble had come out. There was 2 years national service to be done. I was more than happy to do my time. We were brought up that way. It was our way of life, that you did do your duty, and that was your duty to your country.
Ray Buckley and Keith Gent were conscripted into the Australian Army when their birth dates came out in a national lottery. They were 20-year-olds when they were sent to fight in Vietnam. Keith had played 9 games for Essendon, but his promising league career ended as a result of wounds sustained in combat. Ray played footy in every Australian state, even played in front of the head of state. The two men didn't know each other until last month when the Essendon and Collingwood football clubs flew them to Ho Chi Minh City, the old Saigon. It was the first time they'd been to Vietnam since the war.
Where are we going? After you. In you go.
Keith arrived first with former Essendon captain Gary O'Donnell. They'd known each other since Keith coached the club's under-19s.
That he's made the decision to come has probably taken a lot of courage, and I hope to perhaps play a part in that to make it as comfortable for him.
Good luck. Good luck.
Quite frankly, I said when I got home and sort of got settled back into life that I'd never go back there again. If this had been asked of me 10, 15 years ago, I would have said I couldn't have coped with it.
Ray was accompanied by his son Nathan, the former Collingwood captain.
This is just such a fantastic opportunity to be able to go back there and share it with him, and that I don't know how it's going to impact on me.
The thing for me is just to broach some issues that Dad and I have never discussed.
Well, there's a gap in our life. We lived it a lot on the move, but we lived it very close.
I know he's very keen to get back there. I know he's even more keen to have the opportunity to share it with me.
War never treats two people the same. Ray Buckley's torment came after the war, when he returned to Australia, while Private Keith Gent was evacuated out after being wounded in a jungle fight. For Keith, the mental scars have taken much longer to heal.
I just shut it, just completely shut it out, and didn't share it with anybody. For 25 years, I wouldn't have said boo to anyone about it, and nobody ever knew what I was really thinking.
Good to see you.
Looking forward to meeting you, mate. Yeah.
Pleased to meet you. I believe we're in this place at the same time.
You wouldn't believe it.
The tanks of the National Liberation Front entered the city, and then 2 tanks just rushed down the gate. So you can say this is the final point of the war in Vietnam.
Over 500 Australians lost their lives in the Vietnam War, and 3,000 were injured, among them Private Keith Gent. Coming to this Saigon museum and seeing the choppers makes Keith feel uneasy.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling, really, the effect it's had on a lot of people.
From Bung Tau riding Chinooks to the dust at Nui Dat, I'd been in and out of choppers now for months.
So that's our artillery whip. So you'd open this out and it'll flick back the brass cartridge, which is about that big. See, you've got a resting bay here to feed them, and that's also for recoil.
Did you understand the war?
Understand the war. I understood the Army's version of the war.
We were supposed to try and protect South Vietnam from being invaded by North Vietnam. The whole thing was that they didn't know who the enemy was. We didn't really know who the enemy was.
My generation don't know a lot.
I couldn't tell you.
You don't know what the war was about? Who was fighting whom?
Well, I know that it was apparently North v South, and I think the South it was that got support from the Americans. In the end, like most wars, people are in there wondering why. What are we there for?
Ironically, the fighting didn't affect Ray as badly as did the aftermath and the treatment that soldiers received in Australia after an unpopular war. Ray came home to the anti-war protests and he still feels the rejection.
March on Anzac Day at all?
No.
Why not?
For some Vietnam veterans, when they came back and joined the RSL, they were virtually put out of the RSL and made not to feel welcome for people in the First and Second World War who said they hadn't gone and fought a real war. With feelings like that, why would you go and share that march?
Ray's pain impacted on his family.
Everyone that I know that came back from Vietnam went silly for at least 6 months. Some people went silly and never really came out of it, I suppose, but I drank pretty heavily for 20 years.
Ray and his wife Karen moved from place to place.
We'd come from Adelaide to Darwin, went down to Brisbane for a period, then down to Mount Gambier, back to Adelaide. We were moving around a fair bit.
I went to 13 schools as a kid, lived in most capital cities around Australia, but in a lot of country towns as well.
Ray says he drilled his army training into his young son.
When I was actually teaching Nathan to kick, I was actually drilling him. I wasn't just having a kick with him, and it wasn't that. It was very much get it right, do it right, and repeat it, and keep doing it right, which is as much as I know about drilling in the army.
We've got a very strong father-son relationship now, and I think over the last sort of 10 years we call each other mates. Before that it was a bit heated. I reckon teenage years were a bit heated, and we're not the best communicators of all time, but I'm sure that this is going to be a catalyst for some pretty strong discussions.
It's with mixed emotions that they take the hydrofoil from Saigon to the port of Vung Tau and back to where the Australians fought the war. Ray and Keith don't know what to expect, except that they'll be confronting the past, looking for answers, and they'll pay their respects to the fallen in a little place called Long Tang.
Same, doesn't it?
I've got no memory of it.
Ray Buckley and Keith Gent have come back to where they served 43 years ago. Keith vowed he'd never return, but now he and Ray hope their trip might help them and other veterans come to terms with the effects of war.
Yeah, see, this is more like, this is like a village.
Keith was evacuated out of Vietnam, and a promising league football career with Essendon ended at age 20. With Keith for this trip is former Essendon captain Gary O'Donnell. Ray has come back with his son Nathan, who wants to gain some understanding of experiences that shaped his father.
It's a bit of a knock on me, really, that I haven't taken more interest in it in the past. I mean, I asked him about why he hadn't spoken about it more, but in the end, the question is really why hadn't I asked more about it?
They head north past the rice fields, looking to find what remains of places that are etched in their memories.
There's a view that I will never forget. I was on an outside tent in an outside position on our battery and looked across at some low plains, at some hills there, and if I get that view again, that's going to be very interesting how that affects me, because it's just something that's burned into my mind.
This is the back end of the horseshoe.
The first landmark they come across is the crater of an extinct volcano called the Horseshoe, now used as a mine and therefore off limits to visitors.
Apparently, we're a bit restricted in the movements to go up there. And, you know, you've got to respect that because it's somebody else's country. But it'd be great to be up there. Even sort of standing here, it's not quite the same.
It's not quite home, or back home, so to speak. Yeah, well, it's just hard to put it back into its state that it was 45 years ago, isn't it?
Hard to put us back into the state 45 years ago. It's a long while.
This is all that's left of the Pearly Gates, the once grand entrance to the Australian Task Force base at Nui Dat. This strip of old bitumen was Luscombe Airfield, running through the middle of the Aussie base at Nui Dat.
Yeah, well, the last time I took off from here was the last time I was here, and it's certainly different.
5,000 Australian servicemen lived here. Now there are just a few homes.
Hello, Whooper.
And at the end of the bitumen, a 2-room school.
You're welcome. Good manners. Not all the time. There you go, thank you. Well, very good, well mannered. It's a cat. But those kids, beautifully dressed, very well disciplined, and just lovely kids.
Yeah, here it is.
Boys being boys, at the end of the day they brought out a footy.
I haven't kicked a football for 20 years, probably.
Kick the ball. So, there, drop there. Yep. Yeah. Good man. Here we go.
Drop a play.
Hey!
Oh, not bad.
Now the other bloke wants a kick.
You want to go? Go, wait.
Right. Yep. Get them down.
Next morning in the hills, Ray and Keith come upon an old Viet Cong command post.
That was their country. They were fighting for their beliefs, and they had every right to fight strong and hard. And war's a dirty business, and there are no rights and wrongs. I don't hold anything against them for doing that.
Keith had never spoken of the contact in which he was wounded, but he was starting to open up.
And the one that hit me on the bloody leg, if that had exploded, I would hate to think what would have happened.
You can never comprehend it. You could try and imagine and put yourself in that position, and how would you react and how would you feel?
My wife, Lorraine, who we married in September after I got out of the army in July. We've been together ever since, and we're together a long time as kids. She's been a fantastic support to me, and I probably wouldn't have survived, and our marriage wouldn't have survived if she hadn't been such a strong person.
In this rubber plantation, a kilometre from the village of Long Tan, on the 18th of August 1966, an Australian company overcame enormous odds in the Battle of Long Tan. But 18 Australians died and 24 were wounded. This cross honours the Australian sacrifice in the Vietnam War.
It's a big reflection. Good area, isn't it?
People have to realise that all the freedoms that they are enjoying now are a result of people that have served previously, that put their lives on the line and in many occasions actually gave them up.
To me, war's war, and I went through and served it, but now the significance really hits home.
I think he's got a lot of peace out of it, and he'll go home better for it. I think it's been fabulous for him.
My mind's totally at rest.
I've seen that he's just enjoyed that opportunity and enjoyed that that experience. It's a little bit of closure for him, I think. Anzac Day and other anniversaries becomes an opportunity to address the past.
Us as a nation, I reckon, owe them a great debt, both the ones that didn't come back, the 500 odd that lost their lives, that made that sacrifice, but also, you know, the many thousands that came back and have really struggled with life after that time.
Life goes on. Wars are around for a while. They get a lot of passion going. They get a lot of people killed. There may be some gains, there's certainly a lot of losses, and time moves on.